gather round the flickering candlelight and prepare to cross the veil. Each week on the Boostifer Seance, your ghostly guides, Mrs. and Mr. Boost, summon a chilling new tale from the other side. From haunted mansions and cursed forests to restless spirits with unfinished business, this spectral duo dives deep into spine-tingling ghost stories that will haunt your dreams. Whether it's a forgotten legend or a real-life haunting, no story is too eerie for the Boos to conjure. So light a candle, clutch your blanket tight, and dare to join the seance, because once you listen, something might just follow you home. Enter, if you dare.
This video discusses difficult and potentially distressing themes. If you are sensitive to this material, please proceed with caution. Viewer discretion is advised.
Hello.
Hello, hello.
Jesus, why am I so bright? God. Hello, Mr. Boo.
Hi, Mrs. Boo.
I wonder if I make this all. I don't know. Well, how was your day today, Mr. Boo?
Oh, you know, typical weekday. Work, work, work. Eat, eat, eat. Sleep, sleep, sleep. Just got to get to the sleep part.
That would be nice. That would be nice. Are you excited for the weekend?
Yes.
Amen, brother. Amen. Oh, God. Well, today is a fun one. At least if you love the supernatural, the spooky, all that and above. It's Ed and Lorraine Warren.
Mm-hmm. Demonologist.
Demonologist. Oh.
So yeah, this is Happy Halloween week. We have led season 2 up to this point, trying to get a little bit spookier. We did the People's Cult last week, the People's Temple Cult, excuse me. Trying to bring it home with a little spookier this week with the case files of Ed and Lorraine Warren. As we discussed last week, Miss Boo and I again did our research separately. I have a feeling that we ended up on the same page. But we did do some research separately, but we're going to go through the case files that we felt were the most impactful. We also did watch the entire Conjuring Universe series all the way up until the Conjuring The Devil Made Me Do It. So we have not seen the newest one yet, but we've watched everything. We watched it in order. So yeah.
So out of those movies, which one was your favorite?
I don't know. You know how I get with the whole theatrics. So to me, as the movies went on, they got less scary because they get more animated. A perfect example is when we watched which one was it? The last. What did we watch last night?
We watched Conjuring 2 last night.
Yeah, and that one's got the what does he call it? I can't even remember. The man that comes out of the music box.
Oh, it's the crooked
Yeah, the crooked
creepy
man.
man. Crooked. I can't
Yeah,
say the song.
he just looks so animated. It wasn't scary. My favorite of the Conjuring series is either the first Conjuring or the Nun. I really like the first Conjuring movie. What about you?
I would say my favorite. Oof. Oh man, that's tough. I would say the nun. Yeah,
Yeah, that's a good
because
one.
the nun I feel like is the scariest, and then they start getting like, to me none of them are really scary. I kind of put them on as like bedtime relaxation shows, and I know you hate it because I sit there on the couch and I'm one of those people who like talk during a movie. so it like he can't help but have to join in. Even though he was like, I don't want to watch a scary movie right before bed. There's not enough time to put a Disney movie on. And I'm like, what do you mean? You put this on and I'm going right to bed. Like, it's relaxing. It calms the nerves.
Relaxing for you, but I just can't look away, so that's my weakness. But yeah, anyway, so this one might be a little bit of a long episode. We have a pretty lengthy opening story as usual, and then we're gonna deep dive into. I think I have 5. I think she picked almost 5 as well. So I'm gonna go ahead with the story. And pardon my sniffles; it's cold outside, and yeah. All right, Ed and Lorraine Warren. They called themselves demonologists, not ghost hunters, not thrill seekers, not con artists, as their critics would say, but warriors in a cosmic battle between good and evil. For over half a century, Ed and Lorraine Warren walked into the shadows that most people ran from. And in those shadows, they claimed were things that they thought could speak and that they hated. Ed Warren was a devout Catholic and a self-taught demonologist, one of the first Americans to publicly use that title. He was a former Navy veteran, a blue-collar painter by trade, but his true calling, he said, began when he was just a boy growing up in a haunted house in Bridgeport, Connecticut. Lorraine Warren was different. She was soft-spoken, graceful, a clairvoyant, a trance medium, someone who believed she could sense and even see the entities that lingered between worlds. While Ed studied the theology of demons, Lorraine felt them. Together, they would become the most famous and controversial paranormal investigators in modern history. By the time of Ed's death in 2006 and Lorraine's in 2019, the Warrens claimed to have investigated over 10,000 cases of hauntings, possessions, and encounters with the demonic. Their names became synonymous with America's supernatural frontier, an era when faith, fear, and the unknown collided in basements, bedrooms, and farmhouses across the country. And in nearly every corner of that world, you can still find echoes of them. A locked glass case in their occult museum holding the real-life Annabelle doll, the boarded-up house on Ocean Avenue in Amityville, the weathered farmhouse in Harrisville, Rhode Island, where a mother once screamed for God to make it stop. But for all their fame, the Warrens lived in contradiction. To believers, they were defenders of the soul, people who risked their sanity to save others from forces that defied comprehension. To skeptics, they were master storytellers, brilliant at weaving folklore, faith, and fear into something that could move hearts, sell books, and later inspire a billion-dollar film franchise. Yet whether you call them prophets or performers, one truth remains undeniable. They changed the way we talk about the supernatural. Before the Warrens, hauntings were campfire stories, folklore whispered in small towns. After them, they were case files, documented, classified, and sanctified. In 1952, the couple founded the New England Society for Psychic Research, or NESPR, the oldest ghost hunting organization in the United States. Their mission was simple but profound: to investigate claims of the paranormal through both faith and evidence. They traveled from Connecticut to the UK, from urban apartments to ancient churches, and everywhere they went, they left behind both believers and critics, sometimes in equal measure. They collaborated with priests, police officers, psychiatrists, and even filmmakers. They gave lectures across college campuses, and though they never charged for their investigations, their cases became books, documentaries, and decades later, the foundation for the Conjuring Universe, one of the most successful horror franchises of all time. But beyond Hollywood, the real stories were darker, stranger, and far more complicated than anything on screen. Because the Warrens didn't just collect tales of hauntings, they carried the weight of people's deepest fears. They stood in living rooms where furniture moved by itself, where children spoke in voices not their own, where families begged for salvation. And whether those events were truly supernatural or manifestations of human pain, one thing was certain: the Warrens believed every word. Ed once said, "There is a dark world out there, a world of evil that's just as real as the air you breathe. Our job is to prove it and protect those who can't protect themselves." And Lorraine, always gentle, always certain, believed her gift was a divine calling. She described her work not as a battle with monsters, but as a fight for souls. Together, they stood at the threshold of the impossible, asking questions most of us are too afraid to ask. What happens when faith meets fear? When reason collapses under the weight of what we can't explain? And if the devil is real, could he really be waiting in the next room? Tonight, we're opening the Warrens' most infamous case files. Not the Hollywood versions, but the true documented events that shook communities, terrified families, and defined a lifetime of supernatural investigation. These are not ghost stories. They are human stories of belief, of doubt, and of the haunting that lives in all of us. Welcome to the case files of Ed and Lorraine Warren.
Ooh. Oh man.
Spooky, spooky.
Spooky, spooky, I got chills. And yes, they're multiplying.
Lord have mercy.
All right. Well, I guess we should get to know our two Warrens. Ed Warren was born in 1926, died in 2006. His full name was Edward Warren. He was a self taught demonologist, an author, and a lecturer. He was trained as a police officer and was also a World War II Navy veteran. His interest in the paranormal began at a young age, reportedly having an early encounter with the supernatural. Like Mr. Boo said, Ed co founded the New England Society of Psychic Research, NSPR, in 1952. He specialized in investigating hauntings and possessions. He believed many cases involved real uh, demonic, yeah, demonic, that's demonic activity. He was known for being devoutly Catholic and often approached cases with religious tools such as holy water, crucifixes, and prayers. Lorraine Warren was born 1927 and died 2019. Her full name was Lorraine Rita Moraine Warren. She was a clairvoyant, which means a person who claims to have supernatural ability to perceive events in the future or beyond normal sensory contact. She was also a medium. Medium.
Medium.
She claimed to have psychic abilities from a young age, including visions of spirits and the ability to sense demonic activity. Lorraine acted as as the spiritual medium and investigator, communicating with the spirits and assessing the presence of accessing the presence of entities. Their partnership, Ed and Lorraine married in 1945. They worked as a team for decades, combining Ed's investigative skills and Lorraine's psychic abilities. They claimed to have investigated over 10,000 cases, including some of the most famous hauntings in the United States. Their legacy: the Warrens founded the Warren Occult Museum in Monroe. Occult. Okay. Occult Museum in Monroe, Connecticut, displaying items they claimed were haunted, including the Annabelle doll, which I think now belongs to Matt Rife. I could be wrong. They wrote books to get together, including Demonologist and various accounts of their investigations. Their work has been both celebrated and criticized. Skeptics argue that many of their cases were exaggerated or fabricated, while believers consider them pioneers in paranormal research. Ed passed away in 2006 due to a heart attack. He did have a stroke in 2001, which left him weak. So he ended up having his heart attack in 2006 and dying. Lorraine continued her work until her death in 2019, where she died in her sleep peacefully, and the family hasn't said anything else to that. So I guess now we go into the cases.
Yep. Now, you did say that Lorraine quit taking new cases after Ed died, right?
Yes.
I know you said she continued working, but
Yeah,
I think she stopped taking new cases once Ed passed.
Once Ed passed, she stopped taking new cases. She mainly worked with the
Research Society.
Yeah, the research, and I believe she did lectures as well.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so start off by telling me your how many cases did you pick?
1, 2, 3, 4. I picked 5.
And I did 6. So tell me what your 5 are.
My 5 are, I chose my first one being their, I guess not first case, but my first case is the Annabelle doll. Second case, I chose the Perron family haunting. Perron. Case 3 is the Amityville horror. Case 4 is the Enfield Poltergeist. And case 5 is The Devil Made Me Do It.
Which is?
That is the Gladzel family.
Okay, so hold on just a second. So I did Amityville Horror. I did the Enfield Poltergeist, Annabelle, the Perron family, the Arnie Cheyenne Johnson case, which is The Devil Made Me Do It, same thing. The Smorl Haunting, and that was it. So pick a topic, because I think I've got most of yours. Pick a case, and I'll let you start it off, and then I'll jump in.
I guess I'll start with, I'll kind of do them in order by date. So that drops off with Annabelle, their 1970 case. Are we down with Annabelle?
Annabelle? Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's fine.
So if you're afraid of dolls, or just Annabelle period, you can skip this one. You can move forward. September 7th, 1915, John Gruel patented the doll, the Raggedy Ann. 45 years later, one was bought. I'm going to butcher her name. Deard Bernard. She was a 25-year-old nursing student, unwrapped an old child-sized doll from her mother. When asked about it, Bernard said it was just something novel, a decoration. She lived in an apartment with another student named Laura Clifton. Strange occurrences around the doll started off slowly. Bernard would place the doll on her made bed each morning the same way, arms on its side, legs stretched out. But when she would return home, the doll would be in a slightly different position. One night, ankles crossed over, another, the arms would be folded. Bernard thought maybe Laura or Laura's fiance, Cal, was doing it. Laura denied all accusations of ever touching that doll. One day they both came home and opened the door to find the Raggedy Ann doll directly in front of them, kneeling on the ground. The doll, being soft and full of fluff, wasn't posable, and despite repeated attempts to replicate the pose, the doll would just fall. Things started taking a turn for the worse. Laura and Bernard, I can't say her first name, so she's just going to be Bernard, started to find notes around the apartment written in a messy, childlike handwriting. Um, it was parchment paper messages that would say, "Help us," or "Help Cal." Cal never appeared to be in danger or hurt when they would find the notes. Girls also claimed there were no pencils or parchment paper in the apartment, and they were convinced someone was coming in and pranking them, but no evidence of intruders was found. One night, the girls came home and found the doll on Bernard's bed with blood on the doll's hands and drops across its chest. The girls freaked out, but didn't find any sources of blood in the apartment. After 6 weeks of strange things happening, the girls decided to consult a medium. They held a seance with the medium. Someone not living was moving the Raggedy Ann doll, and it was a spirit of a young girl named Annabelle. Annabelle Higgins was the spirit who died when she was just 7 years old. Annabelle told them she used to play in the fields here long before the apartment complex was here. Annabelle just wanted to be their friend. She started moving around the doll to play with them. Annabelle told the medium all she wanted to do was to be loved and looked after, something she never had in her life. Annabelle asked, would the girls let her move into the doll so she can stay with them? The dumb girls said yes. Bernard said it wasn't just a doll anymore, it was Annabelle. In a later interview, they started treating Annabelle as a real little girl, talking to her every day, involving her in games, buying her jewelry. Bernard once said, looking back on it now, maybe we shouldn't have given the doll so much power. But really, we saw the thing as being no more than a harmless mascot. It would never hurt anything, at least not until the other day. Cal never liked the doll. Cal was plagued with dreams about the doll. One night, Cal fell into an extremely deep sleep and described the following as like he was seeing, but switching between his own eyes and an outer body perspective. Cal's eyes opened, laying in his bed, dark room, and felt like something wasn't right. And saw Annabelle at his feet slowly gliding up his body. The doll reached Cal's chest, and frozen in fear, Cal just watched as the doll's arms would go around his neck. Annabelle began to strangle him. Cal fought to throw the doll off, but it wouldn't move an inch. That's when Cal woke up terrified. Cal, frustrated one morning, threw the Annabelle doll from the chair to Bernard's room and slamming the door. Laura and Cal alone heard a loud bang in Bernard's room. Cal went in and saw the doll and felt a strange presence. Laura then heard Cal scream out as he staggered. Jesus. As he staggered out the room, he was clutching his chest and unbuttoned his shirt to see 7 distinct bloody scratches across his body, 3 vertical and 4 horizontal, like something had been violently clawing at him. Cal described it as a burning pain. Despite blood, all his wounds cleared up within 24 hours. The girls called Father Kevins. When asked why they called a priest instead of a doctor, they said, do you think someone off the street would have believed where the claw marks on Cal's chest came from? Father Kevins believed him and contact someone higher in the church, Father Everett. a man who can perform exorcism, Father Everett, with little to no knowledge on demonology, contacted Ed and Lorraine Warren. The Warrens spoke with Bernard, Laura, and Cal at length before Father Everett arrived. Ed told them, but ghosts, human spirits, plain and simple, cannot bring on the phenomenon of this nature. Ed then revealed to them what they brought into their home was demonic. Ed is quoted telling Father Everett, a spirit in this case, an inhuman demonic spirit, began moving the doll. Once it aroused the girls' curiosity, they made the predictable mistake of bringing in a medium who took matters a step further. Communicating through the medium, the entity preyed on the girls' emotional vulnerabilities, and during the seance managed to extract permission from them to go about its business. Permission or welcoming a demonic entity is an important part in the entity being able to influence more of our world, according to Ed. Ed made it clear there was never an Annabelle Higgins, and the doll was not possessed. The doll was simply used as a device. Lorraine consents the presence in the apartment. Ed offered to provoke the demon if the father needed more evidence, but Father Everett declined and said, "Why don't I just do what needs to be done?" The priest performed the ritual and blessed everyone present without issue. Lorraine could feel the presence of the entity was lifted, and their work was done. Bernard begged them to take the doll, and they did. Placing the doll in the back seat of their new car for the long drive home, Lorraine became aware of an aura of vicious hatred. The new car began to stall, causing the power steering and brakes to fail. After the third near accident, Ed pulled to the side of the road and doused the doll in holy water. No more incidents on the drive home. When they arrived home, the Warrens experienced a taste of what Laura and Bernard been experiencing. The doll would appear in various rooms. Locked doors did not stop it. It appeared levitating, and also a black cat would often appear in Ed's office, fascinated with the doll, but would quickly vanish. Lorraine would hear loud growls every time she was on the phone with Father Kevins. Ed met with a detective on another case and went upstairs to grab something, and 5 minutes later, the detective, unknown why, white as a ghost, ran up the stairs saying the rag doll is real, over and over again. Annabelle was locked in a blessed glass case inside the Warrens' occult museum with a sign warning, positively do not open. According to Lorraine, a man once mocked the doll at the museum and died in a motorcycle accident shortly after. The museum closed after Ed's death and zoning issues in Monroe, Connecticut, but the doll remains in custody of their son-in-law, Tony Spira, which I believe now is Matt Rife, who owns it. I do have some skeptic notes, unless you want to do your notes first.
So I have some questions.
Go ahead.
So where did you get the names of the people involved? Because I got different names. I have Donna and Angie were the two girls. And Lou, who was the one that got scratched by the doll, was Donna's fiance. And then the priest that did the exorcism, the main priest in the case was Father Cook. And I'm not calling you out, I'm just looking at inconsistencies. Yeah, so it says, so After Lou's experiences, Donna felt it was time to seek real expert advice and contacted an Episcopal priest named Father Hagen. But Father Hagen felt it was a spiritual matter and felt he needed to contact a higher authority in the church, so he contacted Father Cook, who immediately contacted the Warrens. And then the part where you said that the brakes went out in their car, that happened to Father Jason Bradford, who was a Catholic exorcist, and he is reported by Ed to have come to the house, to the apartment. He saw the doll seated in a chair. He picked it up and said, "You're just a rag doll, Annabelle. You can't hurt anyone," and tossed the doll back in the chair, at which point Ed exclaimed, "That's one thing you better not say." He left an hour later, and Lorraine pleaded with him to drive safely. She was discerned, or Lorraine discerned tragedy for this young priest, but he had to leave. A few hours later, Father Jason called Lorraine and explained that his brakes had failed as he entered an intersection. He was involved in a near fatal accident, destroying his vehicle. Um, and then there was another incident where I'm sure there's lots, but it says about once she was put in the case, but she was believed to be responsible for the death of a young man who came to the museum on a motorcycle with his girlfriend. The young, did you say that already?
Yeah, I said that.
Okay, and um, they were laughing and making fun of the doll, and he lost control, and they went into a tree. The young man was killed, but his girlfriend survived and was hospitalized for over a year. The young woman explained that they were laughing about the doll when they lost control of the motorcycle. But yeah, so I was just curious about the.
So all my research, I'm going to shout them out, is from the tape library, who they when they do their stuff, they have the documents and um like the recordings of the people they interview. They may have gotten the names wrong, but I don't. They're not the
Yeah,
names of the movies, so I don't know.
this is from NESPR.
Yes, they might have gotten the names wrong, but they're not the names of the
Donna
movie.
was the daughter of the mother who purchased it. Angie was the roommate, and Lou was the um, fiance. Um, but everything else you said was the same stuff I had. So if you want to do your skeptic stuff, that's fine. I didn't really have anything else to add.
I hope the tape library didn't ruin the rest of the research. But it looks like they have
No,
the
it's not ruined. I was just
yeah. It
saying
looks like they have the
there was some
core
other
stuff.
names.
So I might, if you guys want to comment on their stuff and be like, hey, they got a little bit of stuff mixed up there. But the skeptic notes are there was no parchment paper ever actually found. The scratches could have been psychosomatic, and critics point out that the Raggedy Ann dolls were light and could fall or move with an air, drafts, or vibration. But I
Yeah,
wouldn't buy it. I wouldn't buy one.
yeah. So the one part, I guess, weighing in on the excuse me, weighing in on the demonology part, which is the kind of stuff that I was really interested in, is out of the stories of Ed and Lorraine Warren's cases, the doll itself, my understanding, believe it or not, if you want to, the doll itself is not possessed. They believe that the doll is an intermediary for the demon, and the demon uses it to present itself as, they say it's Annabelle, the 8-year-old. If you watch the movies, it takes that story and frickin' runs with it, and we end up with a grown ass woman, and it turns into a horror movie, and I don't really like. I mean, I didn't consider The Conjuring itself. I mean, it has some raunchy's not the right word, some gory parts, but that movie's fucked up, for lack of a better word. Um, Especially as Annabelle, the actual creature person, progresses in the story. But anyway, the doll is said to be an intermediary for the demon. So the demon is always picking up the doll. It was responsible for moving it, for getting it through the walls and things like that. It was literally using Annabelle as a prop. So that's something to keep in mind. A lot of people say, you know, self hypnosis, emotional contagion, and sleep paralysis had a lot to do with, on the skeptical side of how to explain it. You've got two nurses who are most likely sleep deprived, and some sort of self manifestation or self hypnosis came from, you know, or even self hysteria contributed to the how the story ended up running. Um, but yeah, that's pretty much all I got on Annabelle.
All right, case 2, the Perron
Heron.
Perron family haunting. Location was Harrisville, Rhode Island.
So just for reference, this is the original Conjuring movie.
Yes. Um,
I'll be right back.
no, you're fine. Harrisville, Rhode Island, farmhouse built in 1736. Roger and Carolyn Perron, huh? Perron, and their 5 daughters moved in January 1971. They had daily disturbances when they moved in. They had knocking and doors slamming, disembodied voices, furniture shifting. The family reported they smelled rotting flesh and saw apparitions and heard whispers. The young daughter claimed to see ghost children playing hide and seek. Carolyn was particularly targeted. She was bitten, slapped, and at one point levitated from her bed. One spirit was identified as Bathsheba. Bathsheba Sherman, a local woman accused but never convicted of witchcraft in the 1800s. Local legends claim she sacrificed an infant to Satan and cursed the land. The Warrens' involvement they were called in after the Perrons sought help through their local clergy. Lorraine claimed to see a black mist form around Carolyn. They performed several spiritual cleansings and seance, one of which caused Carolyn to speak in tongue and convulse violently. Roger Perron, fearing for his wife's life, asked them to stop. The aftermath was the family lived in the house for 10 years and activity reportedly lessened but never vanished. Carolyn studied local history and found many deaths on the property, including drownings, hangings, and suicides. Andrea Perron wrote a trilogy called The House of Dark and The House of Light, which documents their decade-long haunting. So the skeptics for that is historical records show Bathsheba Sherman existed, but no evidence of witchcraft. Local historians believe the Perrons' stories combine grief, stress, and folklore. Still, the family insists to this day the events were real. I didn't have a lot on that story.
Yeah. Again, this one. Sorry, I wasn't in here when you were talking, but some key points that I'm sure you talked about. Yeah, obviously in the movies they call her by name, Bathsheba. She was accused of local lore of witchcraft and infant sacrifice, allegedly targeted Carolyn, excuse me, like in the movie. Um, Carolyn claimed to have seen a ghostly woman with a broken neck, objects levitating, disappearing, doors slamming, strange noises, rancid smells, bed shaking, which, if you don't know anything about demonology, rancid smells is a huge indicator, which I'm sure you mentioned this, but rancid smells is a huge indicator of demonic presence, usually because of it's portraying the condition of the source of the demon. I'm going to leave it at that without going into gory detail. Um, the Warrens investigated and concluded the home was infested by demonic energy. Lorraine reported contact with Bathsheba's spirit. A seance reportedly ended violently when Carolyn levitated and was thrown across the room. Some key things to take away was that the Perrons stayed for 10 years before leaving. Their daughter, obviously, I heard you about the House of Darkness and House of Light. The case obviously inspired the original Conjuring 2013. Again, like Miss Boo said, Bathsheba was never convicted of witchcraft. A lot of people say that Bathsheba's story was shaped by misogyny and small town folklore, that the timing, and I mean, everyone knows about the Salem witch trials and stuff like that, that innocent folks were charged with crimes that they surely did not commit. The seance is said to have been severely over exaggerated in the movie. They talk about some of the reasons why the family stayed, and if that was part of the conspiracy, as to why, that they possibly could have been faking it or whatever. A lot of that, to counter that, obviously the family was truly under financial strain, like the movie portrays them. People didn't believe them. They hoped it would stop. They didn't want to move again. So a lot. This one kind of goes back and forth. With, I mean, there's not much skepticism, but you can look at the facts of the other side, and it's pretty equal on this one. This one, for the movie series, is really where it started defining the Warrens, portraying them as investigators and spiritual protectors. This is where Lorraine, I mean, obviously The Conjuring is the first, but this is where she really steps out into the seeing things and seeing the stories, and then she ends up playing a big role in calling Bathsheba from inside Carolyn in the movie. So, yeah, I don't really have much more. I know I recapped a little bit there, but the Conjuring original is my favorite, but the story is definitely exaggerated in the movies, as most of us would expect. But yeah,
Bathsheba. Case 3. The Amityville Horror. This one I feel like is one of the dark ones. I feel, in my personal opinion, I think this is one of the darker ones. So with, again, I'll give you the viewer discretion is advised. So if you want to skip through it, I don't blame you. November 13th, 1974, at about 3 a.m., Ronnie DeFeo Jr., or Butch, Butch, was the oldest of 5 children. The location was 112 Ocean Avenue.
wait, was he just the oldest of 5 children on that day in 1974?
I mean, that was the last day he was the oldest of 5 children. That's dark. I'm so sorry. That was dark. Intrusive thoughts one there. Yeah, the location was 112 Ocean Avenue, Amityville, Long Island. Ronnie Jr. walked into his parents' bedroom, shot both his parents twice. Ronnie DeFeo Sr., age 43, and Louis DeFeo, age 42. He then head to his siblings' rooms and shot them as well. Brothers John and Mark, ages 9 and 10, and his sisters Allison, 13, and Dawn, 18. All bodies were found face down in their beds, as though they hadn't moved an inch while Ronnie Jr. was executing his family one by one. No neighbors reported a disturbance, though. One did claim to hear their pet dog barking around the time of the murders, but they did not hear a single gunshot. It is reported that at least Allison and Dawn appeared to have woken up before they died, but no bodies were moved post-mortem. 6:30 p.m. that evening, Ronnie Jr. runs into Harry's bar just a block away from the family home and starts shouting that his parents had been shot. He gathered a group of guys to head to his house to discover the grisly scene. Police arrived and moved Ronnie to the side for his safety and asked questions. And this is where Ronnie's stories begin. Ronnie told the police the shootings were carried out by a mob hitman and Luis Fellini was behind the killings. Ronnie also claimed he wasn't there for dinner that evening because he grew tired of his mom's poor cooking. That one didn't hold water due to the family being killed 14 hours earlier. After 12 hours of interrogation, Ronnie finally spoke up about his hatred for his family, how Rodney Sr. abused him for years, and he referred to his younger brothers as pigs. 1969, while watching Castle Keep in his basement, Ronnie Jr. decided he had had enough. At first, he only wanted to kill his parents, but after shooting his parents, he couldn't help himself. In a frenzy, he stalked from room to room, executing each and every family member, and he could never explain why. No one was really surprised by the events, as Ronnie was known to be a troubled kid. Ronnie had been threatening to murder his parents for years. Oh. Ronnie's mother was warned to have him committed before he finally acted. Ronnie Jr. being a victim of his father's abuse for years, combined with his heavy use of heroin, acid, and speed, took a severe toll on his health. The court case, which is the interesting part. Ronnie thought it would be best to get the jury to believe he was insane. Ronnie started coming up with downright strange stories. The strange stories continued to grow and spiral until Ronnie Jr.'s death in 2021. One story was he was in the basement when he overheard his family plotting to kill him and he decided to murder them first. Another story, he claimed his sister Dawn killed his father and his mother and had killed his siblings before he turned the gun on her. Another story, he claimed he drugged his family, which would explain why they were all found in their bed in a strange manner, but no drugs were found in their system. He also claimed his sister and others helped him with the murders. He claimed he heard voices that told him to kill them. Even a female demon in a hood with black hands brought him the rifle to do the deed. The court psychiatrist diagnosed Ronnie with antisocial personality disorder, and he was sentenced to life in prison. 2 weeks passed when a new family arrived to 112 Ocean Ave, Amityville. George and Kathy Lutz bought their new home for $88,000. They knew the story of the house and said they weren't a superstitious bunch and couldn't resist a deal. All of the DeFeo's belongings were still there, minus the mattresses. Within the first hour living there, their dog was chained up to a tree in a garden. For seemingly no reason, the dog decided to leap over the gate with the chain still attached and was hanging as the family rushed to save their dog. One of George's friends suggested a Catholic priest come and bless the house due to what had happened. George agreed. The house unsettled the priest the priest was overcome with dread when he reached Dawn's room. He said no one should sleep in this room. The priest claimed he was slapped and told to leave the house. It was also reported the priest was covered in salts and boils all over his hands. Kathy claimed earlier on she felt a presence embracing her from behind. She instinctively felt that it was a woman, and the embrace was supposed to be comforting rather than threatening. She often smelt the woman's perfume around the house. The Ludd's youngest daughter started talking to an imaginary friend named Jody, and she claimed Jody was a pig with glowing red eyes that would watch over her through the window as she slept. In December, George and Kathy both saw Jody's red eyes, and George ran out to see it, but only found hoof prints in the snow. George also found a hidden room that was not on any of the floor plans hidden in the basement. The room was painted red and had a strong stench of human feces inside. Over the weeks, the family was living in the house. Over the next few weeks, the family was living in the house. The children began sleeping on their stomachs, something they have never done before. George seemed to be focused. Jesus.
Take a breath.
This iced coffee's hitting though. George seemed to be the focus of whatever was in that house. He started to become obsessed with fire, insisted he needed to keep the fire burning in the living room, and would spend hours chopping wood. He was constantly cold in the house. The family didn't experience this. George would hear sounds at night, from screams to footsteps, and even loud music being played, but could never find the source. One night, he tripped over something, and when he looked down at his legs, he saw what appeared to be bite marks. George started to become increasingly irritable and aggressive with his family. His personal hygiene became considerably worse. He started waking up every night at 3:15 a.m., the same time the DeFeo murders were said to have taken place. Strange black mold started appearing around the house. Green slime would ooze from the ceilings, dripping down to the carpet. Swarm of insects, mostly flies, would be in the room Dawn once slept in, but seemed to be no way of getting rid of them. Activity started getting violent. The cupboard doors would get slammed, doors broken off hinges. Stair rail was found ripped off. An open door slammed shut, trapping one of the children's fingers in it. A month after moving in, George woke up in the middle of the night again, but this time he couldn't move. His bed was shaking from side to side as if it was being lifted over and over. He then saw Kathy levitating. Jeez. Levitating across the bed, and her face switching to that of an old woman. What happened after that is unknown. The Lutz family always refused to talk about what had happened that final night in the house, a secret they both took to the grave. His family left everything behind, left the apartment. 2 months later, George Lutz gave the Warrens the key to the house, but refused to go any closer than a restaurant 4 blocks away. Ed tried to get George to talk more about what happened, but George refused. The investigator said the house felt like a ghost ship when they first arrived. The Warrens both claimed they were hit with overwhelming sensations. Ed said the house reeked of death. Ed went to the basement. Lorraine went to the bedrooms. Both claimed to be hit with the sensation of powerful rushing water falling on them. In the basement, Ed encountered what he described as a powerful demonic force, while Lorraine saw in her mind's eye the image of bodies all lined up on the floor of the sewing room, which was Dawn's room. Supposedly, it was the DeFeo's bodies before the coroner took them away. The Warrens took many pictures, but noted the religious statues Ronnie Sr. bought back home along with an exorcist priest from Saint Joseph's Shrine in Montreal 6 months before his death or his murder. When he was asked why he brought home an exorcist, Ronnie Sr. said, "I've got a devil on my back." The group conducted a seance during their investigation, during which Lorraine proclaimed there was an evil in this house and claimed this evil has been here long before the murders. A number of cameras were set up with timers. Some years later, a pregnant secretary of the Warrens was going through the Amityville investigation photos and said every time she would get to one photo in the set, her baby would kick. In one of the photos, she noticed something odd. In the bottom corner, looking from the doorway, appeared to be a young boy, his eyes glowing, and he's staring directly at the camera. The aftermath of this was the Lutz family fled the house, never returned. The story became the base for the Amityville horror book, 1977, and the films. The DeFeo murders were confirmed factual, and the hauntings remain debated. That is what I have for the Amityville horror.
You sure that's all?
That is all.
Good Lord.
That one was very, very detailed because it had like 2 parts.
Okay. Again, I'm reading from NESPR. So the Lutzes moved in 13 months after the DeFeo murders. DeFeo murders occurred on November 13th, 1974, and the Lutzes moved in December 18th, 1975. Other than that, I didn't really have any discrepancies. The priest that originally came out, he actually, according to this, came out while they were unpacking, and was there to bless the family home. Made his way upstairs to the second floor, entering the bedroom which had formerly belonged to Mark and John Defoe. He began sprinkling holy water, at which point an unseen voice told the priest to get out, which he hastily did. The priest did not tell the Lutz family about the voice, but he did warn them, do not use the upstairs room as a bedroom and do not let anyone sleep in there. Hence why they turn it into a sewing room. All the stuff about George. George woke up one night to witness his wife transform into a 90-year-old lady, and the next night she began levitating over the bed. The Lutz family tried on numerous occasions to contact a Catholic priest, only to find the phones would cut out whenever they would try to call. They tried to go around the house with armed with a crucifix. They walked through the house reciting the Lord's Prayer. A chorus of voices erupted in response, asking them, "Will you stop?" The final night was reported to be the worst. Banging and rappings as loud as marching bands emanated throughout the house, furniture being moved by its own accord, and the children being terrorized. The DeFeo family, or no, the Lutz family was in the home for 28 days until they fled to Kathy Lutz's mother's home in Babylon. Ed was physically pushed to the floor during their investigation, which their investigation happened 20 days after the Lutzes fled. Ed was pushed to the floor while using some religious provocation in the basement. Lorraine was overwhelmed by the sense of a demonic presence and was plagued by her psychic impressions of the DeFeo family's bodies laid along the floor, covered in white sheets, and a sense of physically being pushed back. They also captured an image of a spirit that appeared as a little boy, I think you talked about. The Shinnecock Indians also at one time had an enclosure on the land that was used to house the sick and the mad, in which they were left in the enclosure to die. The Warrens believed that the suffering there had left the property with a very negative energy and dark history, and that such a negative history was a magnet for a demonic spirit and a preternatural. Thought this was interesting. The Ocean Avenue home was purchased by the Lutzes in 1975 for $80,000. In 2010, it sold for $950,000. And as the time of this report was on the market again, and there have been no further reports of activities.
I don't know if it's just me, but I'm not buying that house. I don't care how much it is.
Yeah. Hold on a second. I'm gonna look at something.
Yeah. The next two aren't as lengthy as the.
Yeah, we need to make those quick.
Yeah, the ones I had the longest were.
So the property's address has since been changed. It is no longer 112 Ocean Avenue. It is now 108 Ocean Avenue. It was sold in 2016 for $850,000. Was turned right back around in 2017 for $605,000. And the last reported sale was 2023 for 1.4 million, and it has since been completely renovated and looks like any other modern home now. But 1.4 million.
I say you burn it down. Just stop putting people there.
All right, on to the next two. Make them quick.
All right, the Enfield Poltergeist. August 30th, 1977, Peggy heard a horrendous banging early in the night. Peggy thought the kids were playing games. Peggy saw the drawers move across the room. She grabbed her kids and left to the neighbor's house, the Nottinghams. The police checked the house at approximately 1 a.m. When they were about to leave, they saw the chair wobbling and fell and slid across the floor. Night after night of strange things kept happening, so they went to the Daily Mirror. They claimed they saw marbles floating and even claimed they were hit by a toy brick. Maurice Gross took interest. He had a daughter he lost a year prior named Janet, so he was known for going above and beyond for this family because one of the daughters was named Janice. A different day at approximately 1:15 a.m., they heard a large crash from the girls' room. They saw a chair flipped in the room, and BBC radio Roz Morris reported the bed was shaking. Investigation. Sunday, September 25th, John and Sylvia Burkhole. Sylvia claimed she saw a toy appear in front of her eyes and then just drop. Peggy was trying to get counsel to move their home, and Maurice captured these knockings on tape to communicate with the spirits. 2 knockings for yes and 1 knocking for no. I believe you can listen to these recordings, I believe. November 12th, Janice was thrown from her bed to the floor. After that, Peggy left notepads around to see if the spirit would talk to them. A note was found that said, "I will stay in the house. Do not read this to anyone, or I will retaliate." The following weekend, Janice experienced a violent seizure, and the doctor gave her a sedative and put her to bed. Later that evening, the girl's uncle found her strangely laying on her radio. Strangely laying on her radio. Janice then started making drawings, and they were all dark. December 3rd, Maurice caught Janice at 1 a.m. sliding down the stairs head first. Maurice captured the spirit talking to him on tape. The spirit at first said his name was Joe. Maurice told the spirit to say his complete name, and instead the spirit barked at him, and I listened to the tape. He maybe said Maurice. To me, it didn't sound like it. Maurice just sounded like growling. Maurice days later claims the spirit.
My name is Bill.
Yeah.
As the movie would say.
Yep.
Bill.
Maurice days later claims the spirit says his name is Bill, and that he went blind and had a hemorrhage and died in the chair in that living room. Later,
Turn my show back on.
Later, the story of Bill Watkins dying in the house was backed up when the investigators got in contact with the son of the previous owner. Automatic cameras were placed around the house and caught the now famous photos of Janice being levitated. Hazel Short claims she saw Janet or Janice lying flat.
Janet.
They called her both for some reason.
Her name's Janet.
Yeah. Laying flat, and she was floating in front of the window. Peggy found Janet being choked by a curtain, but luckily was able to free her. Things started to get more violent. BBC Scotland caught Janet talking in gruff, spooky voice. Over 150 incidents were captured by Peggy. The Warrens got involved, but only for a minimal time. Maurice ran a test to prove Janice wasn't making the voices herself using tape and water. Medium, I'm going to butcher this name just like Tape Library did. Medium Dono Glimji Myling attempted to heal the house. No one knows what he did, but it seemed to calm what was happening. 1978, the Warrens came back and captured more evidence, but less violent and forceful. The home was blessed, but the Hodgins said the spirit never fully left. For this one, my skeptic notes are Janet later admitted some of the incidents were faked, saying about 2% of it was us and the rest were real. Psychologists suggest child trauma and attention seeking may have played a role, and that The Conjuring 2 dramatized the Warrens' involvement more heavily than real life. They weren't as involved as the movie portrays. And that's all I had for.
I don't have anything to add.
Okay.
We can wrap it up there if you want.
No, we're on the last one. I can finish it real.
Okay.
Look, it seems like Mr. Boo's ready to go. Case 5, The Devil Made Me Do It. It happened in Brookville, Connecticut. The Gladzel family, they experienced a series of disturbing events centered around their youngest son, David. David began seeing a strange old man. Big black eyes, thin face, animal-like features, jagged teeth, pointy ears, and hooves. David insisted the man threatened him and would sometimes appear as a demonic beast. His parents thought he was just having nightmares, but David began showing signs of violent outbursts, strange voices, and scratches appearing on his body, so they sought out for help. The Warrens interviewed David and declared he was under demonic possession. They claimed to witness him levitate, growl, and speak in multiple voices. They said he displayed knowledge of things he could not have known otherwise. The situation worsened despite prayers and attempts at blessing the home. Over the course of several weeks, the priest from the local Catholic church got involved, performing minor exorcisms, but the church never confirmed a formal exorcism took place. According to the Warrens, during one of the exorcisms, David's sister's boyfriend, Arnie Shanae Johnson, confronted the demon, telling it to leave the boy alone and to take me instead. According to the Warrens, this invitation marked a turning point, and they believe the demonic force then shifted its focus from David to Arnie, but nothing happened at first. For several months, Arnie appeared normal, though family members and the Warrens claimed they noticed subtle changes in his behavior. February 16th, 1981, Arnie arrived at the home of his landlord, Alan Bono, when an argument broke out. Witnesses stated Arnie suddenly became enraged and attacked Alan with a knife, stabbing him repeatedly. Alan died from his injuries and Arnie was arrested. When Arnie arrived at the police station, he claimed he had no memory of what had happened and why he was in custody. When Arnie's case went to trial, his attorney would argue that Arnie was not guilty by reason of demonic possession, something that had been used as a defense previously in the UK. The Warrens and a number of priests publicly supported this claim. Arnie was convicted of first degree manslaughter and sentenced to 10 to 20 years, of which he served 5 before being released. The brother, Carl Jr., and father of David, claimed the whole. The dryer? Claimed the whole possession was invented by the Warrens. Carl claimed that when his mother died, he found her journal where she wrote that she was giving them, the kids, sleeping aid in their food, which caused hallucinations and believed to be causing David's. The family made $4,000 on the story, while the Warrens made roughly $10,000, not including the movies. Psychologists believe David may have suffered from mental illness or sleep paralysis. The church never officially confirmed demonic possession, yet Lorraine swore she witnessed levitation and superhuman strength during the exorcism. That is the last thing I had.
I apologize. All right. Well, the last two we made quick, but that was a lot of information. I know we were losing some people. But I hope you all found this very informative. This was just a topic that I felt like splitting it up wasn't going to do it justice, and I'm sure I'd be in a much better mood if I was feeling better. But yeah, so Ed and Lorraine Warren, demonologist. I don't know if you believe it. I believe it. She probably don't believe it, but if it had a alien flying down in the middle of the demon dragging people across the room and they were like, oh look, he looks like an alien, Miss Boo would be like, oh yeah, I believe it now because there's an alien here. But
I don't know, when it comes to, so this is where I split the two. When it comes to demonology, I believe more of that, but when it's just like, oh, it's a ghost, I don't believe that, because it's more believable for like
there's more facts behind it.
Yeah, there's more facts. And I mean, I've listened to the recordings of their interviews with the demonic stuff, and I mean, for me, I don't think it's really possible to tamper with audio. Like pictures, okay, you can probably get someone with Photoshop, or the picture's a little blurry, it's not really there, you could just make something out. But like,
you got to think of the time too.
Yeah.
Like even image and video editing would have been hard back then, but audio editing, I don't know. I believe in ghosts. I believe more in the presence of demons and demonology and things like that. Possession. You know me. I'm fascinated with the occult, the church, how the church, not religion necessarily, but how the church handled exorcisms and things like that. That's why this really interests me. But there's also, out of everything, in my opinion, even some alien stuff, demonology is probably one of the only things that has an actual study of it. And there is, you can actually have like a degree in this to an extent. Whether people accept it or not, it's a different story. But there's a lot of studying that goes. I mean, there's like Ed and Lorraine Warren established a national research society for this. So there's a lot of factual stuff that goes on behind it, whether you believe it or not. So, but yeah, what's next week's episode? Oh, is that Dyatlov Pass? Is that next week?
I can tell you. It is. Oh no, it's the Wendigo.
Yeah, that's right. Got the Wendigo.
Yeah.
And then
it's
then Dyatlov Pass.
Yeah.
So we got 2 more episodes in season 2, and then season 2 will wrap up. I think for all of you that are following us by season, I think what the plan is we're going to wrap up season 2 after Dyatlov Pass, and then I think we're going to come back around Christmas time, in between Thanksgiving and Christmas, and maybe do a couple episodes about some Christmas, uh, ghost horror,
Like
maybe a little bit of
Krampus and
Krampus or
whatnot.
something in there, and then
Like a
we'll take
Christmas special.
another break, and we'll come back after the first of the year with an actual season 3. So we appreciate you guys sticking with us. I know this was a long one. I know some folks in chat were asking about being able to listen to it. The full podcast episode will be uploaded to YouTube and to Spotify. YouTube to watch it, Spotify to listen to it. Patreon gets the whole thing. Come support us on our Patreon. We would really appreciate it. It's $5 a month. It's the same amount pretty much a sub is over here. You get all of our research notes, pictures, everything that we look at, everything that we use to give you the story is there, along with the full VOD as well. So go support us over there. Support Miss Boo here. But otherwise, we will see you next week with Wendigo.
When to go.
And as always,
Stay
stay
spooky.
spooky.